أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا حبيب الله العالمين أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم. Hello everyone, welcome to the ninth week of Tadabbur on the Qur'an. Today we're gonna have some verses of Surah Al-Insān, chapter 76. I hope that we can have verses 1 to 22, but if it was too much, then we can just stop in some verses in it. But I think we can cover these verses today and then the rest of this chapter for next week, and we can also have the conclusion part next week. So, if you studied this chapter, let us know if you have any idea about the paragraphs in this chapter. How many paragraphs does it have?
Salam, sister. I tried to have a go at it, and I think it's either 3 or 4 paragraphs. I'm not sure.
Okay, 3 or 4 paragraphs. And what about the verses in each paragraph? What do you suggest? Like, for
So,
example,
yeah.
paragraph verses, yeah.
So, paragraph 1, ayahs number 1 to 3. 4,
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure. 4, I'm not sure about. This is the one I don't know whether it's a paragraph on its own or whether it joins with paragraph 1. I don't know. Then the next paragraph from ayah 5 to 22. And then the
Great,
last paragraph 23 to 31.
great. Okay, cool, cool. That is so good. Any other idea?
I did one. I divided it up, similar to hers, but I got 4 paragraphs. I
Uh-huh,
did 1, 2, 3,
uh-huh.
and then 4 to 22,
Okay.
and 23 to 26, and
Mm-hmm.
27 to 31.
Okay, cool. So good. I am so happy that you did this. Any other idea?
And I saw some connection between ayahs 4 and 3,
Mm-hmm.
and 5 and 3.
Okay.
Were they? Yeah.
Cool, cool. These are also good, and I will explain it. Actually, you are in a right track, and you did it so good. And you are right that you have that doubt about the verses 4 and 5, and I will explain it. And they are closely related, and it's good that you find out that relationship, and you didn't know that if it's belong to the first paragraph or the other one. It's so good, and I'm happy to hear this. I'm gonna explain it now when we are reading the verses. Thank you so much. So let's start reading. Whenever that I reach to the verses fourth and fifth, I will explain about their connection to the verse 3 and the rest of the actually chapter. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the entirely beneficent, the ever merciful. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا. Has there come to the human a period of time when he was not a thing even to be mentioned? This verse is actually talking about a period of time or a time before even the fetus was created. And human was nothing on that time, and none of us can say that I can remember something on that time. I can remember that I was on another world and it was like this, it was like that, and then I was created as a fetus, then I was born in this life. No one can say so, and no one can say that I came to this world by my choice. And there was no choice on that period of time in our life. Actually, there was no life even to be mentioned, and we were nothing to be even mentioned. When it says that he was not a thing mentioned, it means that you were technically nothing. You were nothing to be mentioned. And I can say like there is a pen here, or there is this knife here, or there is that thing. Those are something that I can refer to it, but we were nothing to be even referred to. We were nothing to be even mentioned. So it says that there was a period of time, and we all witnessed that. Yes, we were nothing, and then we were created, and none of us can say that we choose to be in this life. There was no choice before that. There was no human before that. إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا. Indeed, we created the human from a drop of semen made with mixed fluid, that we developed him step by step, then we made him hear and sight. It is actually telling us, this verse is telling us that we is actually a royal we first, because God wants to say that I, as a God with all of the power that I have, and also with all of those assistants, like the angels, like everything that I have to create the human. So now it's saying that this verse is telling us that we created the human from a drop of semen, which means this is the first step of our creation. And before that step, we were nothing. And that drop was actually a mixture of a cell from father and a cell from mother. It was a mixed fluid, that it was mixed from two cells. And then after that, we developed that fetus step by step. And this fetus development is described in other chapters in Quran very accurately, which is amazing. And those verses are kind of a miracle, and scientists should be happy that they find out that it's that they find out something that is aligned with Quran. You know, we shouldn't say that we are happy that these verses are aligned with what scientists find out, because scientists usually made many mistakes. Scientists should be happy that they find out something about fetus development that is aligned with what Quran described. Anyway, fetus development is described in other chapters in Quran, but here God is just mentioning that we developed that fetus step by step. Then we made him hear and sight. We provided him some abilities that a human can hear and can see. Hearing and seeing or sight are actually our tools to understand and to study and to read. And if we imagine the human brain as a computer, hear and sight are actually the input for this system. For example, for this computer, the keyboard is the input, the mouse is input. These are input, and we input information into it, and we have control on it. Anyway, our mind and our brain and also our system has some input to learn. Those inputs are our hearing ability and also our sight. We can see, we can read, we can hear, and using those tools, we can understand, we can learn and this stuff, and we can be connected with our environment, and we can study the nature. God is mentioning these specific blessings that He gave us. Why? In the next verse, He's telling us, إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. Indeed, we guided him to the way, be he grateful or be he ungrateful. So this verse is going to tell us that actually we gave you those abilities, hearing and seeing, because we wanted to guide you. And if you have to be guided, if you want to be guided, you need to see, you need to hear, you need to understand. When we provided those tools for you, then we guided you and we gave you a choice. You can choose to be grateful or ungrateful. So I want to have a short review on this part. First, we were nothing. God created us from a drop of semen, and He developed us step by step, and then He provided us some abilities to be able to read, to understand, to study, and He guided us. He gave us that ability to study, then he guided us. Without those Sami and Basira at the end of the second verse, without being able to hear or to see, we couldn't be guided. Anyway, he provided those things for us kindly, and then he guided us, and he also gave us a choice. We can choose to be grateful or ungrateful. Shakir or kafur at this third verse, which I translated into being grateful or ungrateful. Grateful in this context means accepting the guidance of God. Grateful in each context is based on that, actually, those verses. Here, being grateful means accepting those guidance from God. He provided everything for us to study, and he also guided us. Now, if I am grateful, I would accept his guidance and I will choose his path and I will go through the path of God. But if I am ungrateful, then I will choose the other one. I will regret his guidance. I will reject all of those messages from him, and I will choose the path evil. So being grateful or ungrateful is this accepting or rejecting the guidance. And in general, in Quran, being grateful actually means if God gave you a blessing, if you use that blessing in the way that He desired and in the way that He told you to use it, it means you are grateful. So in this way, if he gave me the hearing, the seeing, and also the guidance, if I use those things and if I choose his path, then it means I am grateful. So these three verses are very well related to each other, and we can see that they are packed together. And verse 4 is actually telling us if we choose the other path, the evil path, what is going to be our punishment on the other side. So based on that, verse 4 is very well related to the verse 3, because in verse 3, God told us that you are free to choose. You can choose. And God told us about our freedom in this life. We can choose this path or the other path. But what if I choose the other path? Then it's going to tell us at the verse 4 that إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ سَلَاسِلَ وَأَغْلَالًا وَسَعِيرًا. Indeed, we have prepared chains and shackles and a blazing fire for the disbelievers. So if you choose the other one, you are not absolutely free on the other life. You'll be on the prison, which is something that you hated. You like freedom and you choose freedom in this life. You reject guidance and you did not follow God's law and you wanted to be free. So on the other life, you'll be in the prison, you'll be in chains and shackles and a blazing fire. So based on the verse 4, we can say that this freedom is not something absolute, is not something like, say, endless freedom. It's not an endless freedom. This is only in this temporary life. Let's have a review on these four verses. At the first one, God told us that you were nothing at the beginning, which is actually a great evidence to tell us that there was a period of time that you couldn't choose. There was no choice for you. There was no freedom for you. Then I created you and developed you step by step. Then I guided you to the path, but I gave you the freedom. So this is the only part of your life that you have a freedom. And if you choose that freedom, if you choose to be in the path of God, you'll be you'll be rewarded on the other life. But if you choose the path of evil, then you'll be in the prison on the other life. And again, there was no choice for you on the other life. So the beginning, actually, I should say, before the beginning of our life, there was no choice, there was no freedom. In a short part of our life, which is in this temporary life, we can choose and we have a limited freedom. Then on the other life, again, there is no choice. So this verse 4 and verse 1 are actually talking about a period of our life that there is no choice in it and we cannot change it. If we use this freedom in our temporary life to choose the path of God, then it means we can have a good life on the other side. And everything that we do in this life is gonna create our life on the other side. So based on that, we can see that these four verses are very well related together. Verse 2, 3, and 4, the beginning of them, all of them is inna. Inna khalaqna, inna hadayna, inna a'tadna. Indeed, we created. Indeed, we guided. Indeed, we have prepared. So based on that, you can also see that they have all the same tone. And then verse 5, it is إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها kafura. Indeed, the righteous will drink from a cup of drink flavored with kafur. This one, the beginning of this verse is not similar to the verses before. It's enna, ennal abrara. Indeed, the righteous. It's not again started with we. The other verses with all we, and God was talking about what He did. But verse 5 is actually the beginning of a um, concept which is about Ibadullah, which means the servants of God, and it's telling us about what they did in this life and how they're going to be rewarded on the other life. Verses 5 to 22 are very well related together based on this concept. All of these verses are talking about righteous people and then about Allah, which is the servant of God, what they did in this life, how they used their freedom, how they used actually the freedom that God gave them in this temporary life, and how they're gonna be rewarded on the other life. Why God provided this kind of actually this concept for us? Actually, in the first paragraph, we became familiar with actually with the punishment for those people who rejected the guidance from God, and we know that how they're gonna be punished on the other life. Now we need an example for the righteous people. We want to know how should we act. We need a actually a picture about their life in this life, and we also need to know about how they're going to be rewarded on the other life. So God provided these verses to tell us about the servants of God who should be our examples, and we have to follow them. We have to try to be similar to them. We have to try to have a lifestyle similar to their lifestyle. And these verses also encourage us by describing that heaven, the heaven that God is gonna actually took these people to that place. All of these nice description that we will see in these verses are encouraging all of us to follow this group, the servants of God, Abadullah. So let's keep reading. إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا. Indeed, the righteous will drink from a cup flavored with kafur. What is kafur? I saw that some translations said that camphor. Camphor is a chemical that it has a specific smell and stuff like this. I didn't like to translate it to camphor because that is a specific chemical, and we are not sure that this kafur is exactly that camphor. Um, for understanding what is this, we can just follow the verses, and we can read in the next verse what is that. Before going to the next verse, I'm just gonna tell you about this verse. This verse is gonna tell us that opposite to those disbelievers, there is a group of people who are righteous, and they try to accept the guidance from God, and they choose the path of God, and because of that they're gonna be rewarded on the other life, and they'll be in the heaven, and they will drink from a cup. There is something on that cup. That drink in the cup is flavored with kafur. There is an essence in it, which is like a drop of kafur is in their drink. Now, what is kafur? عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا. A spring. Actually, Kafur is a spring that is in the heaven, but it's for specifically that spring is specifically for the servants of God. So Kafur, which there is just a drop of it in the drink for the righteous people, that is from a spring, and that spring belongs to the servants of God. So عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا, a spring of which the servants of God will drink. They will make it gush forth such a gushing in abundance. So that kafur, which for the righteous people, there is going to be only a drop of it, the essence of it in their drink, is actually a spring, and it belongs to the servants of God, a spring of which the servants of God will drink, which means the servants of God are in a higher level compared to the righteous people, and they will drink directly from that spring. The other people in the heaven, they will have only a drop of it. And not even they drink from it, but also they even gush this spring. It means that spring is actually belongs to them, and they made it gush, which is amazing. And based on these two verses, we can see that there is different groups of people in heaven based on what they did in this life. Abadullah, or the servants of God, are a specific group of people in the heaven, and they are in a higher level, and they are like the prophets, the imams, and they are in a higher level, and the righteous did based on what they did, based on how much they followed them in this life, they will be also in the heaven. Also, based on what we see here, that about Allah, the servants of God, they will drink from that spring, but only a drop of that water, a drop of that kafur is gonna be in the drink for the righteous. We can say that it is based on how much they followed the servants of God. If righteous followed them more, they're gonna be closer to them, and they're gonna be rewarded more on the other life. The difference between Abrar and Abadullah, or righteous and the servants of God in the heaven, it's also described in other chapters in Quran. Like Surah Al-Mutaffifin, you will see in Surah Al-Mutaffifin that God is describing the position of the righteous in the heaven, and then it says that the servants of God are in a higher level, and they can observe them, they can watch the other righteous people. So all I can say based on these two verses, there are different groups in heaven, of course, based on what they did in this life, and the servants of God are in a higher level. But we need to know more about them. What did they do in this life that they are gonna be on such a high level in heaven? Next verses are gonna tell us about Abadullah. Now, Abrar, or the righteous, were described only in the fifth verse, that they're gonna be in the heaven. That's it. But from the verse 6 to verse 22, it's only about the servants of God, what they did in this life, and how they're gonna be rewarded on the other life. يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا. They, which means the servants of God, they fulfill their vows and fear a day whose evil will be widespread. It seems that these servants of God, they actually made a vow. Vow is actually a promise that you made, and when you are in a difficulty or when you want to have something good, you can ask God to help you, and you made a vow that if I reach to that actually desired things, or if my problem is solved, I'm going to do something. For example, I'm going to do fasting, I'm going to do some pray, or I'm going to do some donation. It seems that this Ibadullah, they made some vow, and they are also fearful of God, fearful of a day that day is going to be a difficult day, and the evil of that day is going to be widespread. So they are fearful of God, they are fearful of that day, which means the day of judgment, and also they fulfill their vow. And then وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. And they give food despite love for it to the needy, the orphan, and the captive. They made some donation, although they love that food. Loving the food, love for it, ala hubbihi, is actually in a situation that you are hungry and you have the food, but you cannot eat it, like in fasting. This actually means that woe, which was described in the seventh verse, was fasting. It seems that they were in some difficulties and they asked God to help them to go through that difficulties, and then they did fasting. Their vow was fasting. They did fasting, and that hunger, they had food, but because they were fasting, they couldn't eat it. And that situation, before breaking their fast, before the sun set, a needy went to their door and they asked for some food. Say they gave away their food and they donated. They didn't have any food in the first day. In the second day, the orphan came, and then they gave away their food, and again they didn't have any food. And in the third day, the captive came and they gave away their food again. So for 3 days, they made fasting without any food, and they didn't open their fasting. They didn't break their fasting after the sunset because they didn't have any food in 3 days, one after another. And based on the historical document and based on the Shanun Nuzul, I think almost all Shanun Nuzul among Shia and most of the tafsir among Sunni accepted that this part and this chapter is about Imam Ali alayhi salam, the first Imam, Lady Fatima, his wife. She is the daughter of the Prophet, and their sons, Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And also based on some historical document, one of their servant named Fizza, she was also among them. It seems that all four of them or five of them, they were fasting because of the woe, and they were fasting for 3 days. And during these 3 days, in all 3 days, they gave away their food and they didn't have anything to open their fasting. So they were continuously fasting for 3 days. And this chapter was sent down because of what they did. There are some tafsirs that they have other actually a story, but they are weak compared to lots of those tafsir and many of those actually narrations that they all agreed that these are about Imam Ali alayhi salam, Lady Fatima, and their sons Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam ajmain. So These verses are actually describing a specific situation that they were in it, but they went through it, they fulfilled their will, and they gave away their food. But what was the reason that they gave away their food and they made such a difficult donation, although they were fasting and they needed that food, which says Allah hubbihi, despite love for it. Um, so what was their reason? Before going to the next verse, I'm going to tell you something. In some translation, they said that ala hubbihi means for the love of God or for the love of Him. This is not acceptable because ala hubbihi is different from lehubbihi. If it was lehubbihi, it means for the love of God. They gave away their food for the love of God. But no, this is ala hubbihi, which means despite love for it, which means they loved that food, but they couldn't eat it because they were in fasting. So they gave away the food when those needy, orphan, and captives came to their door. But of course, they did that donation for the love of God, for the sake of God, which is which is in the next verses. But this part specifically, Allah hubbihi, it's not for the love of God. This cannot be accepted. So, what was their reason to do such a donation? إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا, saying, we feed you only for the sake of God. We seek from you neither reward nor gratitude. When they did this donation, they told those people that if we are gonna feed you, it's not because we're asking you to be thankful or stuff like this. We are doing this only for the sake of God. We do not seek you're thankful or stuff like this. إِنَّا نَخَافُ مِنْ رَبِّنَا يَوْمًا عَبُوسًا قَمْطَرِيرًا. Indeed, we fear from our Lord a frowning and distressful day. We did this donation because we are fearful of God and we are scared of such a difficult day. The day of judgment is going to be a difficult day and it's a frowning day. And we did this donation to be rewarded on that day, to have a comfort on that day. And we did it for the sake of God. We seek from you neither reward nor gratitude. So the reason that they did this, their donation, is described in these two verses. What God did for them, for this great donation that they did, فَوَقَاهُمُ اللَّهُ شَرَّ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ وَلَقَّاهُمْ نَزْرَةً وَسُرُورًا. So God protected them from the evil of that day and gave them cheerfulness and happiness because they did such a great donation and they were fearful of God and they were also scared from such a difficult day. So God protected them from the evil of that day and gave them cheerfulness and happiness. وَجَزَاهُمْ بِمَا صَبَرُوا جَنَّةً وَحَرِيرًا, and rewarded them for what they patiently endured with paradise and garments of silk. So God rewarded them. Actually, they were not waiting to hear from those people that thank you or stuff like this. And instead of that, God rewarded them. And God rewarded them with paradise and with garments of silk. And here it says that we rewarded you because you were patient for what they patiently endured. It's actually describing that difficult situations that when you do the donation and you need that money or you need that food, you have to be patient. That's why it's saying that being patient. Being patient is actually an important actually, this is an important part of being in the path of God. All of those things that you have to do when you are in the path of God, it needs to actually, you need to be patient. You have to be patient to go through all of this. متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا. From this verse, it's describing their situation and their rewards on the other life. They will be reclining therein on adorned couches. They will not see therein any burning sun or freezing cold. It's been described in other chapters also that the heaven is not like having a sun that some part is in the actually sun, some part is in the shadow, or there is a cold weather, or there is a hot weather. Everything is mild and everything is so nice and desirable. ودانية عليهم ظلالها وظللت قطوفها تذليلا. And near above them are its shades, and its fruits will be lower to reach, so reachable. So this is also describing the shades over there, that everything is so nice, and the shades from the trees are so lowered. It means the trees are low and they are not high, and the fruits of those trees are reachable. And there is no difficulty for them to reach to those fruits. ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قوارير. And there will be circulated among them silver vessels and goblets that are crystalline. It's actually describing their drink, and they don't need to go to that spring to drink from that spring or stuff like this. Always those silver vessels and those goblets are always circulated among them, and they will be served. And it's also telling us that those goblets are crystalline. There are clear crystals. قوارير من فضة قدروها تقديرا. And the point is, those crystals made from silver and are determined very precisely. Those goblets which are crystalline, those crystals is made from the silver, and those servants of God who are in the heaven, they can determine the size and the shape of those goblets in any way that they desire. So one point that I wanted to say is about the silver, that in many verses in Quran that we will see that silver is higher than gold in heaven, and specifically the heaven for the servants of God is described with silver in many verses of it. And one more point that is fizz here is that lady who was in the house of Lady Fatima and Imam Ali alayhi salam as a helper. Her name was Fizza. And it's not weird if we can say that. I believe that we can say this Fizza is somehow related also to that lady. She was a great believer, and she was always trying to follow Lady Fatima and Imam Ali alayhi salam. Anyway, I wanted to mention this point about silver, which is very interesting, that we usually value gold more than silver, but in the heaven, God described many of those rewards with silver, and it seems that silver in heaven is more valued than gold. ويسقون فيها كأسا كان مزاجها زنجبيلا. And they will be given a glass of drink flavored with ginger. So there will be also a little ginger in their glass. Why? Ginger is kind of for warming up, to make willing in their people. Kafir is something that made people cool, and being unwilling to like worldly stuff, like and also these servants of God, they were unwilling to many of these foods and drinks and this stuff in this life. They were unwilling toward this world, and because of that, that spring of Kafur is actually made based on their desire, and they own that spring on the other life. the spring of Kafur, which is actually a symbol for being unwilling toward worldly stuff. And as this group of Ibadullah, the servants of God, they actually were so willing toward their Lord, and they didn't care about these rewards on the heaven. And the main thing that they liked was to be in heaven, to look at their Lord, to look at the beauty of the world, the Lord and the beauty of the heaven. But they were unwilling toward this kind of reward. So it seems that ginger is a symbol of making them willing toward this kind of rewards, willing and kind of warm them up to use this all of these blessings that God provided for them. These are just some interpretations, and we cannot say it for sure because we don't have any experience about this stuff, and we don't know what is the meaning of those springs in the heaven, what is the meaning of the spring of Kafur, or what is the meaning of a drop of the ginger, what is this ginger. These are just some interpretation that people say because Abadullah, or the servants of God, they were not actually they were not willing toward this worldly stuff, and they mainly did all of these things for the sake of God, and they are not actually so willing towards those blessings in the heavens. So God is gonna give them a little of that ginger to make them willing, and to make them actually toward those heavenly reward. عينا فيها تسمى سلسبيلا. So what is that ginger? That ginger is from a spring therein called Salsabil. There is a spring in the heaven. The name of that spring is Salsabil, and that ginger is from that spring. ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا. There will circulate among them eternal young boys. If you see them, you would think that they are scattered pearls. So these are eternal young boys. It means that they wouldn't age, and they're not gonna be old. They are always like teenagers, and they are always beautiful, and they are like scattered pearls, and they're always like a servant helping all of those um, Ibadullah who are in the heaven, the servants of God who are in the heaven. There are some eternal young boys. They're always serving food, serving drinks for them. وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا. And when you look there in paradise, you will see pleasure and great dominion. If you look at that paradise, you will see that it's all pleasure. There is nothing unpleasure in there. عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وحلوا أساور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا. Their outerwear will be garments of fine green silk and stabrak. Stabrak is also a kind of a fiber which is from a plant. And in textile, we know it as a actually silk from a plant. Silk is from a actually a worm, and this stabrak is similar to silk, but it's from a plant. So, and they will be adorned with bracelets of silver, and their Lord will give them a purified drink. And this part is actually the last part of their reward in that heaven. All of these things that they're going to be rewarded with it, which is such a specific heaven. But at the last point, it's this one, their Lord will give them a purified drink, which is not imaginable. It's the highest possible reward for them that the Lord is gonna bring them a drink, and God is gonna give them a purified drink. إن هذا كان لكم جزاء وكان سعيكم مشكورا. These verses, Haza is actually referring to these verses, and they will be told, indeed, this is for you a reward, and your effort is appreciated. They'll be told on that heaven that this means all of these verses, that this heaven, and which we describe it here, this is for you a reward, and your effort is appreciated. They said when they did that donation, they said that we are not waiting to hear thank you from those people who we helped them, but now God is gonna reward them, and their effort is appreciated. So this was the part that I wanted to have for today. As a review, in the first paragraph, God told us that um, we created human, and before that, human was nothing, and there was no choice for human before that. And we created him and we guided him. He can choose to be uh, grateful or ungrateful. If he chooses to be ungrateful and if he rejected the guidance, then he's gonna be punished. And then God started talking about the righteous people, and just in one verse, and then God described the servants of God, who are our example, and we have to follow them. They are the highest possible example, and we have to try to be similar to them. And then God told us about what they did in this life, such a great donation that they did. And then God told us about their reward on the other life. And He described this wonderful heaven, which is not honestly imaginable for us. And God just used some words to make it simple for us to kind of imagine it and to be encouraged to follow the path of God and try to be similar to our examples, the servants of God. I'm going to stop here, and we can listen to the recitation of this chapter, and we will have the rest of this chapter and the conclusion of it next week. I'm going to stop the recording.